If I tell you one thing that I remember, you will think I'm an idiot for only remembering one thing. This is one thing that makes theater different from real conversation. If I provide you with several of my most esteemed memories, you will probably believe the hour where those came from. And I will have earned your respect. This will make theater a little more like real conversation.
I have a job, and it is virtually all I can think about. However, I think this. Memory is nothing but words stored up in a very inefficient computer. What you will remember of this conversation will be nothing like what went into its construction. Such understanding promotes success in business. I know that people want to see the tip of the iceberg only. Business is like a successful cabaret.
I had suffered for a long time from the illusion that remembering inhibited one's experience. Now, that illusion is almost my only memory, and that I'm cold, and that I've been cold for a long time, and that this coldness was brought on gradually by an illusion. Yet, it is likely that I will not be cold later. Then I will remember something else and not this. I will have forgotten the story to which I currently refer. Each person has her own theater. I propose this as an exhibit or symptom of my personal stage.
Who is the bully?
The spitting image of continental drift.
Envy is a disease of the 90s as opposed to the 80s.
The person, it must be sellable. It must be way up there, but not something that will make the normal consumer feel small. It must be way out there, but something like what the regular kind of person sees in himself, something that can expand.
You must be a toy inventor. The image on the outside of the box is hot and fierce. Inside, the toy itself is cold and gray. From this, we learn that toys are the souls of aggressors.
Who is the bully?
The thing you want to buy. The thing I want to sell. Something to play with.
I think I remember who it is. A man slept here. He was going through the roof in his thought. He was saying, "This is driving me through the roof in my sleep. This is waking me up." The sky buzzed in a dim field. The pleasing buzz muted displaced events, acting out their insane melodramas. Women in large groups going upstairs to apartments, leaving solitary males below, imitating the habits of lizards. Then the women reappearing, laughing or biting with an overtone of repulsive sincerity. But the distant buzzing distracts him from the center stage event. And he enjoys himself.
29 spectators lost. That was in a small New Hampshire town. Now, if there were 28 dwellings per block, some of them are multiple, tri-multiple, quadri-multiple, squared, cubed, and you lost the same number from them as you did from the small New Hampshire town. Well, say in a radius of 2 or 3, possibly 4 blocks. I bet hardly anyone would notice. Would you like to know how not to become 5,330 minus 1, or 5,331 minus...
Don't eat the enclave!
Excuse me. My teeth are a nuisance.
Don't mention it.
Anyway, it's too bad this isn't a city. For example, I could tell you in which block or which set of blocks the citizens would begin to be lost. And if you were one of them, I could make a recommendation.
That could have been researched in a manual. I have what we're looking for in my pocket. Look here. File 5330.02's topic is We Dream of Each Other's Earthquake. Your numerical futures are not mentioned. Therefore, I must reject your recommendations and explanations, and what has preceded them, and what has already been explained. Now the product pops out.
In the beginning, there was nothing. No cattails, no wigs, no pause. There was no doom. No lavender or shirt sleeves. No burn, no yellow or rest. Neither was there beginning. No light went out. No one held her own against an array of imperfect, misshapen events. There were no chains. There was no writing or speech. There was nothing to shave, nothing to swim, nothing to cut. Clouds were not clouds. Silence was neither dominant nor peaceful nor silent. There was no salt or smell, no twisted seaweed or any buoyant flowering possibility of an ambiguous growth. There was no killer and fleeting lives. There were neither chains of events nor metaphor. There were no stories or bones, no mulch or cocoons, no lizard, pelican, or fish. In the beginning, there were no instructions and nothing was abstract. There was nothing to identify and no revision or modification of the thing identified. There were neither eyes nor touch. There were no millipedes. Earthworms did not nurture the soil. There was no nurturing, no soil, no worms of any kind. There was no inferno. Sound, word, rhythm, pucker, loss, organization, and signature did not exist. There was no distance. There were no tornadoes and no change in the atmosphere. There was no atmosphere, and there was no heat, no hint of the future, no possibility of Dante. For hints, futures, possibilities did not exist. There was no extinction. There were no keys or clues. There was no DNA. Nothing squeezed. There was no singularity or multiplicity. There was no red. In the beginning, there was nothing to hold and nothing to hold in mind, since there was no beginning, no nothing, and no mind. The end also did not exist. Nothing's there was no gender, no extremes, no image or lack of image. There were no pencils. In the beginning, there were no names. In the beginning, there was no apoliticized moment of the absolute, and no political critiques. Neither was there the hibiscus, flowering, bearded orchid, cunt juices, or a male suspect. Neither black, nor brown, nor white. There was no future and nothing to Reserve.
Okay. The speech ends, the cash bumps over. Pelican peeks in.
I am not as happy as I thought I would be with the results.
Oh, crude ambivalence. Who wants to put my song in a little pocket bulging with product of schmoozement? Would you like me to try again? Do you prefer endings to beginnings or positives to negatives?
If you're a talented young person who can add or subtract or multiply or divide, I can recommend an ice cube.
Don't listen to him, Fishy. You are on the right track. The product just needs a little more theater. For instance, you lack that Robotech number. Bring your thesis to the meltdown point. Do not imply anything. And you, instruction, it's time for you to listen. And remember the instructions so you can deliver them later.
You mean I'm hired? I've got a job?
No, not yet, but you're getting there. You too, Fishy. We've got to make this work together. What else do you remember?
My children have to get ready for school.
Not that.
I'll be back.
Ooh, she's gone.
She's not gone because she was never here. You'll see, when she comes back, it wasn't her at all the first time. What's really bugging me is I've misplaced a very large toy. My Miltonic Humiliator.
Do not infer anything.
As soon as she made words, I better take facts.
That slender little shred of doubt that comes to every boy and girl that orders all the ones apart, that shapes the armies and our hearts to keep the tune of it's no use, to change the tune of it's no use, to march to the tune of it's no use, while increments lead to judgment. And I ask you on this fine day, is this good or bad or neither?
I think I remember who you are. How long have you been in your present position? Well, on the one hand, you go back before my time. On the other, I go back before you.
Is this good or bad or neither?
I can't say. I don't recall. East to the left.
No. Oh. Were you talking to me?
I think so.
You know, there's a feeling sometimes I get of endless duplication.
Yes, we reptiles call it the endless buzz of erasure.
You know, sometimes I'm amazed that we live next door to each other. But how would you feel if you lived on a block of all reptiles?
I did once. It was very competitive.
And what was that like?
Okay. Now let me, the Miltonic Humiliator, world's #1 toy, explain to you what the play has been about so far. First off, you saw a reptile, pelican, and fish all come out of their houses and address the audience from this little space here. Child came out from wherever she lives and fell asleep to Blake's Song of Innocence. Instruction came asking Pelican for a job as his stooge. Nice work, Instruction, if you can get it. And Fish came out onto her porch and gave that long speech I'm sure you all recall fondly. In the beginning, there's no this, there's no that. Meanwhile, Pelican tried and tried to open that cash box. Tried and tried. My heart went out to him. He got it open and there was very little left, and I, as his #1 toy, began to feel a little guilty because, well, I guess it's plain to everybody I'm not selling as well as I should be, though I don't know why, because I sing and dance like an angel. Don't you agree, Reptile?
If I provide you with several of my most esteemed memories, you will probably believe that our war with those came from, and I will have earned your respect.
I am stung by the deception of the past recollections interfering with one's current state of affairs.
I could respond to that in one of several ways. I could be glib about my own background, dismissed with my pretensions, and conform to the popular notion of the reptile mentality. I'm often disposed to adopt that kind of pose in shopping malls. I could propose that you are using self-effacement as a means of getting your packages through the door. I noticed, for instance, melting ice dripping through one of your sacks. I suggest you put it down before it bottoms out. The last time one of mine bottomed out, I was living in that competitive, homogeneous locale we were discussing. I could respond by assuming that the deception you have been stung with has been ousted, or the sting is no longer operative, and just barge ahead into that treasonous territory of one's, my own, self-esteem. But how did we get to this point in the discussion in the first place?
I must have started it.
You asked me what it was like to live solely among my own species. Within that dry, scaly geometry, among spectacular diamonds and golden bands and onyx-dotted chemistry. The silence, the indifference were spectacular.
I was just on my way in. My groceries are mounting.
And so they are. You Miltonic Humiliator. Did you hear that?
I am a memory. White slave, 11 years old, indentured by my father on boat, male child of significant duration. Living through Civil War, giving birth to 4 daughters, growing up, disappearing, daughters as dairy servants, giving birth to 4 more daughters, disappearing as a man or a woman, laughing inappropriately at the death of a grandfather or mother, becoming a suffragette and geometry teacher, thinking more like a crustacean in a porno film than...
I have this great part for you.
You've been listening to me again.
I've been trying to make out how to prove you don't exist.
Oh, man. First, I am trapped in the illusion that remembering inhibits one's jouissance. And I'm remembering now something else, so I seem to have sidestepped experience. Now, all this self-analysis is promising on one hand. On the other, I might as well just mop myself up and throw myself out to sea.
Well, yes, that is a good plot, but I think we could use a few more characters.
But if you put me in the movie, I will just disappear. Returning to the ocean will only be an illusion in a movie. In fact, I might even exist more than I do now, become larger than life. But why do you want to do away with me?
Why do you think non-existence is so bad? Why do you think it means diminishment? Why can't you be non-existent and popular at the same time? You and I are part of the great chain of nature. You jump off the pier in my movie, honey, and you and I affirm the great dynamic between the predator and his prey.
Cut! Cut! I think I've heard just about as much of this as these ears can take. You, fish! I'm gonna slap your jouissance right out onto Divisadero Street. Pelican. Oh, I can't blame you. You're so transparent. You sell, but you fish. You've got a daughter. Good, she's dirty. Give her a bath. Those groceries are melting in your house. This was supposed to be my movie. But instead, what do I get? Oh, I can tell I'm going to have to spend the remainder of this play fighting for what's rightfully mine. Position in his heart and on his shelf. Oh, God, it's enough to give a person a major case of depression. I need something to cheer me up. Oh, good. I hear the bugles from the brass band. I smell the confetti in the air. It's time for a parade.
The buzz of a parade because I was there at midnight facing a gangplank, passing on a float held up by sizzling males. I followed their deep-set eyes on brackish streets, silent creatures on floats hidden behind labial fences wept. Tears seep from the corner of their eye into the street, creating monstrous rides. If I had had the will to love the night or the spectator, I would have loved the dominating parade. But love is not the same as it seems when it passes near me. Although I do like the urges I associate with the disembodied conversations arising from uterine bric-a-brac, conversations which I, who have had no imagination, overhear as if I had already been there. Therefore, most knowledge is public. The tears again drain into the street, expanding as they get closer. And the spectator, the spectator jumps over itself to float with the floats as they enlarge and break away.
A flood of individuals.
Maximize the whims of men.
In song,
The master bright shall be.
Songs guide which shall be.
license to provoke,
And be clumsy.
No staring the blush.
and rinse the toys.
Oh, flood! Oh, flood! Oh, flood! Oh, flood! Oh, flood! Oh, flood!
A parade. High inflation. Men wandering into floating labial fences. Sidelines are snoring, sniffling, wincing, evacuating old neighborhoods. Forget. Dancing on icebox. Ventriloquists have flooded the streets with nosegays. The spectator, aye, a lady, a gentleman, seats itself in the bus, waiting as the globs on gowns are fixed with metal links.
All rise to if I had needed them, I could have eaten them. Parade attendance has been calculated by a panel of machinations, 5,329, with an error margin of 0.5329. Let's give them a round of applause. Another hand for their diplomatically engineered title, Sermons on the Rise.
Autonomy were not the strong suit of a theatrical projection. If I had been captivated by someone else's story, if I had waited for that someone else's next event, if I had added to that story myself as a story, if that captive listener who had also captivated me, if that captive listener had been inserted into my story, and we were each one waiting to find out what happened, if these are the things nobody wants to hear anymore, a series of small conclusions folded into someone else's domestic memory. Puffs of untamed events that organize separate adornments of another situation. How did I know all this? If I did all this as a memory of myself, I would live inside a narrative. And I would not be on this float, which inscribes another form of intelligence, adjacent to the lust for being captivated by someone else's story and inserting oneself into its events. Adjacent and also not what anyone wants to think about as pathetic. I mean, intelligence is not sad. And there's a great attraction to pathos. As a souvenir of attention, of listening to another story that is not identical to one's own, but might have been if an accident.
The speaker has been requested to supplement her speech with an improvisation whenever a pause is indicated.
Fishy is going to join my toy movie set yet. If she... That's it! If she will be the name of my movie and toy. What a breeze to market. Oh, Fishy, Fishy, if she. Oh, I love the lore of love of profiting from love, everybody's love. I know I sound like somebody anybody can remember in this reverie, but that's the way it works best. If she says to me, you must be a toy inventor, and I am. Weeks later, meaning now, she floats by in a fishbowl. She makes herself into what I need. She draws a line, I redraw it. I love to push at the edge of style. Oh, if she. Great masses of oceanic inventory arise!
Ladies and gentlemen, put aside your cares for another 2, 3, or possibly 4 hours and enjoy the rest of the show.
Enjoy the show. Oh, that's a laugh. Yeah, you all enjoy the show, but not for me. Her, not me. Where are my skates? Oh, I know. The skates are in the house. The house I once shared with Pelican. But no more. Now that she's remade herself into what he needs. What's become of me? Have I come to the end of the line? Discontinued? No, it can't be. How could I have lost him? I feel totally alone and trapped. But child, what about you? How do you feel? What do you want to do?
I want to float. I want to float. I want to float.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
If autonomy were not the strong suit of a
God, I wish I had more money.
theatrical projection, I was driving down Highway 101 and ran into a pothole. If I had been captivated by someone else's story, if I had waited for the someone else's next event, you know, I kind of like men and women in uniform. If that captive listener Solomio, who had also captivated, that's two trigger, that's true. No, two trigger, two, not true. Now that's four trigger, now that's five. If that captive listener had been inserted into my story and we were each one waiting to find out what happened, I always want to know what that box is going to look like in 75 years, if it makes it to 75 years. If these are the things nobody wants to hear anymore, Mother, I'll call you. I will. I promise I'll call you tomorrow. We'll talk a long time. How are you? A series of small conclusions folded into someone else's domestic memory. I wrestled a tree today. I really did. Puffs of untamed. Yeah, well, this is all really quite a thrill. Events that organize separate adornments of another situation. How did I know all this if I did all this? You know, I wish my shoes were spit-shined. As memory, a lot of wind yesterday, huh? Of myself. I really love my dog. Of course, she's really special. I should have brought her. I would live inside a narrative. Yeah, I have a job. Whew. A straight job. And I would not be on this float. Calls come into the office and my boss says, "Fuck 'em!" Which is, of course, another form of intelligence. Row, row, row your boat. Adjacent to the lust for being captivated by someone else's story and inserting oneself into its events. Hey, man. Hey, man. Hey, you got a quarter? You got a quarter? Adjacent, and also not what anyone wants to think about. I think I'll shave my legs when I go home tonight. As pathetic. Bleach can be dangerous. I mean, intelligence is not. I need a whole new wardrobe. Sad. And there is a great attraction to pathos. God, I love shadows. Thank you very much. As a souvenir of attention. Yeah. It's good just to be here. Of listening to another story. To another story. Yeah, well, I could maybe now start counting every single little grain of soil and keep your attention, right? That is not identical to one's own. But might have been if an accident
I lost something.
What do you mean?
What I said.
Where's my mother?
Have you seen your mother lately?
I want my mother.
What if I said she's my mother?
Please talk to me.
Time for you to help me.
What's that in your mouth? You look heavy.
You look hungry.
Do you like what you're doing?
My plant's gone. I'm very concerned.
I can pick one for you. What kind?
Not that kind. The factory.
That's my house.
Well, it used to be right there.
I don't remember.
You can't remember.
You lost your plant before I was born. I have a father. Who's your father?
I've never met your father.
He doesn't have to be here.
I wish he were.
If we're friends, then we're not in the same family. We're in different families. Where's your family?
How'd you like to make a trade?
I don't like trades.
Nothing? You tell me a story and I'll tell you a story.
I'll tell you a story, and you have to do what I tell. Once upon a time, there were only little groups of people living on berries and other stuff. You remember what?
Roots, fish, like that.
Now go over there and eat the berries.
I didn't say I'd do it.
That's our trade. I tell you a story and you act it out.
I didn't agree.
It won't be difficult. Don't worry. Just go over there and eat the berries. Everybody was eating berries, but someone invented magnifying glasses. They could burn things faster with magnifying glasses and see details that some people say we were never meant to see. They built houses, like common houses, you know them, and they kept the magnifying glasses in the common houses, and they would go in them when they were sick or happy. They took the magnifying glasses with them on hunting expeditions, too. They liked to look at the berries, which were hairy in the magnifying glasses.
You wanted to work? Get out there and work.
And they would look at their wound healing, and they would make up things to look at, like toys with teensy seed designs on them. And they would play. They got really good at sewing because they could make things very small. Even before history, we were preparing for the invention of microscopes. But they didn't need microscopes, and they didn't have pollution. They wanted to see things that were different from what they'd already seen. The way they started wanting it is when they realized that when you look through a magnifying glass, things look different.
I must tell you.
And somehow they got this idea that something that's already there changes. Changes what's already there.
Some of the seed heads of the genetically altered
to your factory, okay? You go over there. You know that neighbor Pelican? Open the door.
Oh, it's been so, it's still so rain.
Are those mine?
Wake up. No.
Are they yours?
I got them from a suicide. Do you want them?
Maybe. I got a hexagonal lock from a great-grandparent who died once. I have lots of grandparents and step-grandparents. Do you?
I don't know.
You don't know, or you don't remember?
What's the difference? What you will remember of this conversation will be nothing like what went into its construction.
It's okay to kill yourself because it's your body.
Well, usually, in theater, when somebody kills themselves, you really go into it. You find out all about them. You, well, become tormented with their torments. You discover compassion even for parts of yourself you don't like. It's an ordeal. This time, it's just gratuitous violence. Nobody liked the guy very much. Although he was kind of a kick, and he wasn't very human. His songs weren't any good, but well, people enjoyed them anyway. Nobody's going to care, are they? That's what's okay about it. He wanted to be an orator in a time when orators had almost ceased to exist. He was an artifact, like a toy. Toys are a form of memory, more or less distant. Well, that just about wraps it up. You don't have any parts of yourself you don't like, right?
I'm not parts. Do you have parts?
Sometimes I do things you like, right? And sometimes I do things you don't like, right? Well, those are parts. Sometimes I'm selling you a bill of goods because it's something I have a passion, a proclivity for. I like to shine. It's part of me. And sometimes I just say what I think, and that's a part. It's what I live with. Parts.
A nascent land and all that it represents maneuvers to replace us.
I think I know you better than you know yourself.
How could you say that?
It is a form of pit. I've been imitating the capacity for pitting in higher ups. I've learned from them.
Oh, you've been following their instructions?
Not exactly. I've been trying to observe the relationship between sexual passion and other emotions. Pity definitely has a deadening effect. I'm learning how to use it to add to my repertoire. Living off of memories and sense is a kind of grotesque religious imitation. Pity does not cause pattern, as far as I can tell.
A pattern is something that pleases the eye. It is time for glass, water, and fish.
I bet you'd like to know what happened.
Oh, it's you. I didn't recognize you without your fish bowl.
That is a serious misrepresentation of a prior event. You are referring to a title of an exhibition. It was decorative and metaphorical. People like metaphor. They like to imagine everything differently than it is. I was part of a collectively conceived, but impermanent, elsewhere. It was as satisfying as a good joke.
Is that really you? You're not saying the right things. You're not even talking about yourself. There's something excruciating about your behavior. Are you trying to make me feel ridiculous? You know, I used to want to wrap my tube around your shiny trunk and make you something special. And now, I don't. Whoa, whoa.
Over enemies. There was a connection between the concept of enemies and the destruction of the earth and a power that connected her to some other thoughts that lurked in the outskirts of her development.
Wait, I have always thought of myself as a happy creature.
Why do you think this story is about you?
That's it. Now you're starting to act like a professional.
And you're starting to let down your guarantees.
let me take over where you left off. She wanted to destroy what threatened her, the landlord stirring in his iconic diapers, the obscure tones of adult speech, the little creeping surrogates of loss and display windows that she could not own. She could neither own the display, nor the window, nor any part of the delectable presentation. Her father's hat collection. She wanted everything immediately to enter into a cartoon of a child in a laboratory, putting ectoplasm in vials under a lab light shining on the word observation. These are the thoughts which lurked in the outskirts of her development.
Erotic, eugenics, enormous edge. Engineer, entire, elf, ed, effort. Egregious, Eisenhower. Engineer, empire, electric, empire. Endorse. Epigraph.
Friend, you're backtracking.
I'm rehearsing for the job interview.
Oh, let me help you.
Let me discard my thoughts. They're spotted with chinks of sand. Did you know that in Moore's utopia, diamonds had no value? But this has been troubling me for a long time. I remember having had the experience myself. But I can't remember my place of residence then. It was a time before anyone ever mentioned a word about presence and absence. An echo in the hills fell through the floor, ignored. But there were no records. There was a dampness that was as much sound as other matter. Nothing was conflated with libido, and the females prospered without ceremony. In fact, I have a theory. Ceremony is invented to fill the void of deceased prosperity.
I think that the place you're talking about has a name familiar to all of us.
I think you're mistaken, but the feeling of its remoteness gives me an erroneous desire. Besides, it lacks credibility, I should say.
Well, the practice interview session will be over soon.
I think you should go someplace else. I'm still working on these numerous devices. Isn't there a place we should all be this time of day? Or is it always so crowded?
Well, it depends on what area you're talking about.
This is somehow nervy.
Go ahead, continue with your project.
The evolution of the five-star planet was an intentional device to upstage the onslaught of erotic satires that all young girls stir up in us eventually, in spite of the classes we have taken in eugenics. Our enormous eggs were the first casualties of this repression, each breathing its last under the lilt of a starry-eyed pout. Yes, the stars kept busy for some time, even at the curtain's edge, where normally only engineers took lunch breaks and spent heaps of bedding. The child was getting lost in language. Entire herds of shellfish announced themselves to her vulnerable ears, and as they trickled out to sea, they hoaxed her with aberrant singing, ebbing and webbing without dotting the elf in their oceanic pattern. Ed told us once he had seen her from a distance, but we suspected his was only an effort to enlist the egregious and static domination we inhaled along with our father's bromides in Eisenhower's last campaign. Have pity on Eisenhower echoes in my head every night before I drift off to sleep. A suggestion placed in my thoughts by a skilled marksman once thought to be memory itself. Still, I am optimistic on behalf of the child. I have every confidence she fought off all the hoaxes, even those I have grown personally fond of over the years, when she discovered electricity. A genius before the time of Edison, before the time of Franklin. Her empire did not turn stale. It was endorsed even by those in my semi-literate family who could not read the warranty inside the dominion of her epigraph. The epigraph went like this. When crawling out of your skin, remember me. Of course, the warranty said lifetime guarantee.
Enough evolution had occurred that she could sip her water and economize at the same time. The earth was either erotic or she was.
She said she wasn't little anymore because she was a scientist of her own body, conducting enormous experiments.
She no longer agreed to eat eggs. On the edge of hospitality, on the outskirts of a homogeneous neighborhood, she introduced herself to an entire school of engineers as the next ebb in the flow of a theoretical mechanics. But you were no bigger than an elf, they all shouted. Therefore, she raised herself to her true height and countered,
How many of you have the first name Ed?
About 213 engineers raised their hands. It was a big effort to count them.
It was here that they suffered an egregious lack of courage.
Eisenhower was no longer the head of state. The electric empire endorses Aeschylus, but there are other nameless types who are a kind of bird and will stick, she wrote as an epigraph to her latest book.
So this was scene one, right?
Yeah, scene one. But they didn't get it quite get away. Several
Yeah.